It's time for another daily drop here on TarHeelIllustrated.com. I'm THI publisher Andrew Jones, and the topic today is Carolina basketball, specifically the world of quad one wins and losses. I know it's dreaded. I know a lot of people can't stand hearing the word quad anything, whether it's 1, 2, 3, or 4. They don't like trying to figure out, hey, this is a quad one win if you beat them at home and they're 1 through 25, or on a neutral site 1 through 50, or on the road 1 through 75. It annoys a lot of people, and to be perfectly blunt, it annoys the crap out of me too. I'm not a big fan, and I was not a big fan last February of following Ohio State so closely and watching a lot of its games late in the year, even though it was next to last in the Big Ten, because the Tar Heels needed the Buckeyes to win games in order to get another quad one win to help its chances at getting into the NCAA tournament. I wrote a lot about Ohio State lost again. Ohio State lose to Minnesota. Ohio State lose to Northwestern, whoever the heck else it was. And the Buckeyes ultimately did not finish in the top 50. That was Carolina's best non-conference win given the net ranking of the opponent. They beat the Buckeyes in overtime at Madison Square Garden in the CBS Sports Classic. Okay, I don't think we're going to have to worry about that this year. In fact, I know we're not going to have to worry about it this year because Carolina has already played 4 quad one games outside the ACC, and there's 2 more coming, by the way. They already have 2 wins. I think they're going to pick up at least 1 more. They still have Kentucky and Oklahoma. I think they're going to win one of those games. They could win both. Personally, I think they're better than both teams. Doesn't mean they'll win both games. So why this part of the year is important, and talking about quads right now is important, is A, to juxtapose what it was like late last year, and maybe to help fans understand that you might not have to sit on the edge of your seat worrying so much about an Ohio State winning games just to make the field. Now, you'll pay attention to other teams because it'll affect seeding and everything else, and maybe playing close to home, all that kind of stuff. We'll get into that as the year goes on. But as far as the stress of wondering if your Tar Heels are just going to make the field, that's probably not going to be an issue unless they fall apart in league play. So they have 2 quad one wins right now, games I think that will hold up as quad one wins throughout the year. Now, I know that Arkansas had a terrible loss the other day to Oklahoma, but Arkansas's got to win over Duke. Arkansas is a pretty good team. They're going to win a lot of games in that league. That league is going to be loaded with high net games with teams high in the net rankings, NET. So there's going to be a lot of games in that league that are played that are going to move net rankings around because there's a lot of good teams in the SEC. So if Arkansas has a good year, the fact that Carolina beat them on a neutral site means that as long as Arkansas is in the top 50 of the NET, when the committee finally puts the field together, that's a quad one win for the Tar Heels. Also, Carolina's home win over Tennessee, maybe a little bit less of a chance of being a quad one game simply because wins at home have to be over teams that are ranked in the top 25 of the net. Now, I think Tennessee's good, and I think the Volunteers are going to win a lot of games in their league. They had a good win over Illinois this weekend. Again, like Arkansas, so many opportunities to enhance your net ranking. So I still think there's a pretty good chance they finish in the top 25. I think they're that good. So Carolina fans need to follow the Vols to see that they win enough games. If you're not a Tennessee fan, you might want to become one to get another quad one win. So if Arkansas is in the top 50, Tennessee finishes in the top 25, those are 2 quad one wins for the Tar Heels that they will have in their back pocket without even looking at conference play when the committee goes into that room in Indianapolis and decides who the 68 teams are. Now, the quad one losses can also help. Villanova is an interesting case because the Wildcats have 4 losses. It's bizarre. They lost to, Penn? And then they went and won the battle for Atlantis. And then they lost 3 in a row until beating UCLA on Saturday night, which was a good win. UCLA's a solid team. So Villanova's kind of in a tricky position. 4 losses already. There are signs that this might be one of those 17 and 14 type years for Villanova, where there's some nice wins, but also some bad losses. And the danger in the Wildcats not finishing in the top 50 of the net is certainly there. And if they don't, then Carolina's loss to them becomes a quad 2 loss. You don't want that happening. You don't want any quad 2 losses. So Carolina fans should have been rooting for Villanova against UCLA and root for Villanova to continue winning games and have a really good year in the Big East to make sure that that stays as an overtime loss, quad 1 loss. Committee won't punish Carolina for that at all. Now, UConn, that's a neutral site game, even though it was a lot of UConn fans there, and it was the third game UConn's played at MSG this year, but there is no way UConn's going to fall out of the top 50. So that's going to remain a quad 1 loss. The margin wasn't great, but it's a quad 1 loss. It's not going to hurt the Heels. What I think can be really intriguing and really important for the Tar Heels are these next 2 games. They play Kentucky on Saturday in Atlanta, and then they play Oklahoma several days after that in Charlotte. Those are neutral site games. So both Kentucky and Oklahoma need to finish in the top 50 of the net for those to be quad 1 games. All indicators right now are suggesting that they will both be in the top 50. Oklahoma's unbeaten, and I've seen them twice now, and they look really good. Totally different than a year ago. That's a club that can beat the Tar Heels, no doubt about it. Kentucky, if you saw them against Miami, they looked awesome, but wait a second. Miami just got destroyed by Colorado Sunday up at Barclays in Brooklyn. So maybe Miami's not that good. Maybe Miami's not that good at all, because that's 2 blowout losses, one of them Kentucky, and Kentucky followed that game up with a home loss to UNC Wilmington. So we don't really know what Kentucky is. A lot of talent, a lot of shooters, but we don't really know what the Wildcats are. But I have a hard time seeing Kentucky not finishing in the top 50. So if Carolina can split these next 2, that'll probably give them 3 quad 1 wins outside the ACC. And the league is better this year. There's been some bad losses, but the league is better this year. Clemson's very good. Clemson is really, really good. I'm not going to get into the whole league. I think might bring Brett Friedlander on this week to talk about ACC basketball and kind of how it's stacked up so far in the non-conference play. But the league is going to help Carolina and everybody in the league a little bit more this year than it did last year. Last year, it was like running in quicksand or in sledge. You couldn't really get much traction by winning games. I think this year, winning some games in the league is going to help a team's net and help that resume a little bit more. But even if it doesn't, if the Tar Heels can win these next 2 and get 4 quad 1 wins, they're going to be sitting pretty come March. They're really going to help themselves. So a lot of people don't pay as much attention to college basketball until after New Year's, until after the bowl games are played. I say phooey on that, man. These games right now are very important. This is the most difficult stretch of the season for Carolina, for one thing, but it's also a period in the schedule that could be the most rewarding when it comes to their NCAA resume. So these are fun times. These are exciting times, interesting times, and very telling times. When the committee sits in that suite in Indianapolis and they look at Carolina's resume, they're going to spend a lot of time on some of the games that have just been played and the next 2 that are up ahead to still be played. So if you think Carolina is going to get 4 in the non-conference season, 4 quad 1 wins, go ahead and click like on this video. Make sure you subscribe to the video. Click the notification bell too, so you get updates every time we upload, which is often. And also tell your Carolina friends about us, that we exist. We're here. We're constantly pumping stuff out. And we have a website, TarHeelIllustrated.com. For just $8.33 a month, you can be an insider too. That is your way of supporting these videos as well. We can only do this stuff and travel everywhere the Tar Heels go if people continue to subscribe to our site. This is a business. It's a media outlet. It's a business. So we appreciate if you guys head on over there, sign up, and get some gifts for people. You can gift this time of year to others. It's a yearly subscription to THI. The yearly subscription works out to just $8 in 33 cents a month. I'm AJ, and I will see you tomorrow.